And on to the next. This time it we start with Mr. Oliverio. I knew you hadn't had a turn to go first. The mailers on Measure B seem to have a point. May I, when you write so I can read it? Seem to have a point. Maybe we do get too much salary for some more than others, and maybe benefits might be scaled back too. Do you think this issue is very electioneered, is being electioneered?
No, it's just the math. You know, I have a mailer out here that we have it shows all the property taxes we collect as a city that we benefit from, and the pension costs, and it just is larger than that, and that's just simple math. Granted, it's part of an election because we're asking the voters to help us change the city charter, but it's just the math. But since we were on redevelopment, and I don't think it got a fair shake, just so you all understand, if there's a plot of land and it's worth $1 million, and then the redevelopment agency came in and built something on it, and so here it's $1 million, and then we built something on it like the Fairmont Hotel, and then it's $100 million. That didn't happen by itself. That happened because of a redevelopment agency. And that redevelopment agency created this massive property tax increase. That money then went to the city to go build things for jobs and Highway 87 and Highway 85. If we didn't do this, the schools would have had nothing because that piece of land would have never been developed.
What Mr. Oliverio has forgotten to tell you about is that the redevelopment agency in the last 10 years, bonded up to 90% of the value of the incoming tax. And then when the 2008 property crash came about, the property became either at water or underwater. So the bottom line to all of that is that's why we are in such dire straits with redevelopment. Now, with respect to the question about pension and Measure B and the pension program, these are the things that aren't in Measure B. There isn't a prohibition against double dipping. There isn't a cap on the salary so that there could be a limit to how much the pension is. These are things that can be negotiated. These are positive solutions, and we could have pension solution today if people actually sat down at a table and looked at the real numbers that are on the table.
The mailers on Measure G suggest that perhaps maybe there is too much salary, some more than others, and maybe benefits might be scaled back. Do you think this issue is being electioneered?
I do believe that this whole issue is being electioneered. Absolutely, without doubt, it is electioneered.
Is it true that the city administration, the council members, and certain other city employees are not covered by the same pension system that Measure B is being voted on? If so, is that correct?
Well, that's correct. They are part of the CalPERS system, which is one of the proposals on the table from the firefighters and the police at one point during this discussion. They offered to go into CalPERS. So, what's good for the goose doesn't seem to be good for the gander. In addition, there is no prohibition against one of our council members who is a double dipper. And in fact, he gets 50% of his pension tax-free. So it's not just a tiny bonus for him, it's a super bonus. In addition, they're exempt from any kind of review on that, and as was pointed out last night by Channel 11. So we do have some differences that the council treats itself somewhat similar to the way Congress treats itself. We're we make the laws, but we're going to be a little bit above them.
some of the administration, council members, and some other city's employees are not covered by the same pension system that Measure B addresses. Do you think that's, if that's true, is that fair?
I don't believe it's fair for, if they do have a different system to be actually passing judgment on something they're not being affected by. So I don't think that's fair.
Mr. Oliverio?
The only people not in the city pension plan are the elected council members. And I voted about 3 months ago that we should get rid of the pension system from council members and replace it with a 401k. And we'll probably have that completed at the end of this year.
Okay, and we'll start with you again, Mr. Chu. Our questions are kind of all over the map, and I'm trying to keep it together, but it's not working. This is kind of an interesting one. Mr. Chu, integrity of character being the most important quality in a public servant, how many times in the past 5 years have you broken a promise?
Since I haven't been elected or sitting in office anymore, I've broken no promises officially. I can't remember of any that I've actually, I try to keep my promises.
Having looked at my campaign literature the first time I ran, I've been pretty consistent. I talked about new pensions for new employees when I was running. I talked about outsourcing park maintenance when I was running. I was talking about a lot of those things, and frankly now, having come here, I put Measure W on the ballot that passed in November 2010 with 74% voter approval. And I know Mr. Kline says he supports a second-tier pension system, but when that opportunity came, he actually signed the ballot argument against Measure W, that it was even a new pension plan for someone we haven't even hired was too severe. So that's not good. When we looked at the park maintenance that we outsourced small parks under 2 acres. The line item used to be $4.2 million. That line item is now $1.3 million, $2.9 million in savings. So I think it's being consistent. I've also made a thing about that, everybody deserves a park, not just market rate neighborhoods, but even affordable housing. And I was consistent on voting against every single project that didn't provide a park.
I broke a promise that I made to my husband that I would lose weight. I do that yearly, but I will continue to make that promise. When Mr. Oliverio ran 5 years ago, he made a promise that he would have neighborhood meetings here in the district. We don't have neighborhood meetings with him in this district. We have to go to City Hall to watch his films. That's not part of District 6. And I applaud Mr. Oliverio for reminding people of where I stood with Measure W. I did sign the ballot measure against it. The people spoke. I was enthusiastic about it, but at least I didn't steal signs.
And our next question. We'll start with you, Mr. Oliverio. Concerning senior centers, what is your position on keeping the centers vibrant?
I'd just like to go on the part where Mr. Kline mentioned about stealing signs. As you may recall, I removed signs that were illegally placed in public right-of-way. And all of you have the right to remove those signs any given day, and I encourage everyone to do so. In fact, my council colleagues put this out into their email lists all the time. Now, unbeknownst to me, the out-of-town political lobbyist that staged a little charade moved the signs from public property onto private property. So when the district attorney did the investigation, and they went to the private property owner and said, "Did you give these people permission to put a sign on your property?" He said, "No. The only person in a legal declaration I'd ever given the approval to put signs or remove them on my property is Pierluigi Oliverio. And Mr. Kline, if you ever say that again, I will serve you with a legal leather."
Well, the question, I'm going to ask the same question again, and you can answer however you like. Concerning senior centers, what's your position keeping the centers vibrant?
To me. Senior centers like Mr. Kline. I use my time. It should be
Yes,
Mr. Kline.
right. Mr. Kline, the question for you.
Senior centers are very critical, and We have just this week opened the Bascom Community Center, although not officially. Today, that day that we opened them was day 521 since we received the certificate of completion to open that. Bascom and Seven Trees were built approximately the same time. Madison Nguyen got her community center open within 30 days of completion. We've had to wait 521 days. So I'm hoping that when the center gets open and vibrant, that we're going to have plenty of use for seniors, because I know that's an important part of our community. It's only going to come through a community involvement, through a community advisory committee, and making sure that the community is listening to, and an advocate at City Hall working to make sure the Parks and Rec Department does what we want it to do for our district.
Mr. Chair? What would you do to keep senior centers vibrant?
Vibrant. It's kind of a loaded word, isn't it? I mean, if there's one person there who's vibrant, the center is vibrant. It's kind of up to the folks that are coming to them to make them vibrant. And that requires that you actually go to them and participate and get involved in them. And everyone who is not involved is not contributing to the vibrance and needs to get involved. And I would like to promote people getting involved in what's happening. Not be so wonderful in solving your problems for you that I can do it for you, but to maybe actually get the community to actually step up itself. You start getting involved. All of you need to get involved with your senior centers, with your schools, with everything that's going on in the community. We have a community without people who are really neighbors. It's like people are all disconnected and not really together on anything, and we need to get together. We need to connect with each other. We need to get to know our neighbors and each other, and public meetings are a perfect way to do that. City Hall has a 500-seat auditorium that...
Okay, thank you. Our next question will start with you.